Hi, it's Marcus. I want to show you a couple of basics on the 4-pass scan system. 4-pass scanning is mainly used for retail, so you will typically use a scanner and scan your products, or you will basically search the products as well. Um, so at any stage when you're in the point of sale, you would then be able to go and press F1 for search for your products, for instance, and you can literally just go and scan the items. If you've rung up an item that you've set up a shrink for automatically, the system will pop up and prompt you then to say, do you want to sell the case or the single? Let's assume for the moment I want to sell this the case. Just on that point again, if you ring it up, you can then either go up and down with the arrows and press enter, or alternatively just press 1 or 2 on the keyboard. I've already rung up that item, so let me go and ring up some other items. For argument's sake, you want to ring up an Amstel. You select that you want to do a single. The customer changes his mind and says, in fact, give me 2 of those. You can press the star button on your keyboard and you'll see it change to quantity mode at the top, and I can press 2. Again, you might want to say, but okay, I want to override the price as well. This will be security driven, password driven, meaning that if you have the right passwords, you can change the prices or not. Very important that you set up your passwords as quickly as possible, and also set up the access rights for your cashiers and say what are they allowed to do or not, so that they can use the system properly. So I'm going to press my F9 button by default and say change price, and I want to change that price. I want to give the customer a little bit of a discount. I'm giving it to him at 14 Rand. You'll see all the prices here on the 4-pass scan system. It's typically like a cash register kind of system, or from the old days cash registers. In other words, I'm typing the cents as well, 1400, and then press enter to finalize that line entry. Once you're done with your sale, let's assume that this is all that you need to do, or all that the customer wants. You'll press the Subtotal button, which on the screen by default is F10. I've changed mine to be the tender button, or the K button. On my keyboard, the K, if you look at the keyboard layouts, you'll see that if you start playing around with other buttons like the plus and the minus and the slashes and whatever on the numeric keypad, the values don't show that way. So I'll do the tender argument's sake. I'll say my customer is giving me 900 Rand and he's paying it in cash. So I can either press on the F2 again there, or just simply press the F2 button on the keyboard. Sale is complete. It'll print for me, and the sale and transaction is complete. To configure the printer, something I neglected to start off with, you'll press Ctrl-C, and you can have a lot of functionality here on the software to go and say what must happen with the sale. So let's just look at the printer quickly. I'm saying out of all my printers, those are my printers available. You can just click on the list. My slip printer, I know it's a 58mm printer, and I can go and set my width to 52 characters. In other words, I want a nice border on the side of it, and I also want to make sure that the the cashups and everything prints out nicely in terms of the system. In my case, I've also disabled the sounds, as you can see here, and print graphics allows you to, if you have the proper drivers for printer, to actually print the receipts properly, and not in a text format, which means that it's not formatted properly and then all over the show on the page. Okay, a couple of other options that I've selected here, and we'll have another video of all the parameters and settings and so on, so that you can understand how they work. For now, do not play with any of the others. They've got specific meanings and so forth. The ones that I have selected just for testing purposes is save transactions at the voucher. This is for customers that have a central cashier. In other words, in a electronic store, for instance, they'll be able to go and pick the items from any one of the salespeople, some hardware stores as well, and then they will take their receipt with a barcode on to the central cashier. The central cashier will ring up the sale by scanning the barcode on the receipt, and then finalizing and receiving the money. So it's a very good way of managing it. Some of our other customers, for instance, are using it for, they have a number of hawkers that come in on a weekly basis, and they will bring mounds and mounds of cash in coins and so on. So they have a central cashier section that will receive the monies from them first, and they will ring it up as a negative, in other words a credit, give them a receipt with a voucher number on. They will then go and pick the products from the shelves, and the cashier will then be able to add it all together and say, fine, you bought 500 rands worth, you've given us 400 rands worth of coins, you owe us a balance of 100 rand. Can also be used in takeaway stores in supermarkets. Typically what we've done for customers there is the ability to be able to go to the takeaway section, ring up the items, they will collect their product with a slip and a barcode on it, and then they can carry on shopping and buy the cold drinks and the chocolates and everything else, and the system will then ring up, or the cashier will then ring up all the other products and then scan the barcode from the receipt and finalize one total bill for the customer. It just secures this whole issue about people ordering from the takeaway and walking out without paying. Alright, so you have a central point where all the payments gets done, not some of it gets paid at takeaway and some of it gets paid somewhere else. So those are just some of the parameters and the printer setups. Alright, so let's go and do another sale or two. Let's say I want to do an account sale, for instance. I've rung up an item. I can go and press F6 for account sale, select my customer details. The account sale's got a little bit of a catch. When it gets to this point, it gives you a last chance to go and approve or not approve, or carry on or not carry on. You must just simply press enter one more time there. And do you wish to complete? Yes, thank you. Once you've done that, all the slips will print out properly and it will go to the customer's account. The rest of the functionality is also in menus, so you can press Shift F11, which will bring up a little menu for you on the side here, and you can actually have menu choices about how to do the voids, reversals, change prices, deleted transactions, reprint transactions, which is quite easy. You can either select it from the menu, or you can simply press Ctrl and P and it will show you the last couple of sales that you've done, last couple of transactions, and you can literally just press enter on it. Once you've pressed enter on it, it will then automatically reprint it for you. Then let's go and look at some of the other functions on that same menu so we can just talk about it. Then you'll see there at the bottom, let's start it from the bottom. The deposits is quite important that you set up if you run a liquor store. How do you want the deposits to be handled? You'll see on the deposits for the liquor stores there's two different prices. So you can either specify it must be normal or special, and then the deposit credits is to show you all the credits that was rung up. In other words, people returning deposits for you. Sets building on and off, quite important as well. At the bottom of the screen, I'm sure you can see the mouse at the bottom, you'll see that by default the shrinks is off and the sets is off. What that means is that the system will not automatically go and calculate the shrinks for me. In other words, if I ring up 12 beers and press the subtotal button, it will not automatically go and calculate the price for the 12 set up on the shrinks. It will just ring up 12 singles. So if you want to give the customer the benefit of the 12 price, which is always a good idea because the customers obviously looked in the fridge and noticed the prices and so on and worked from there. And the same applies to sets building on. Sets is the ability in a supermarket type of business, even liquor stores, in many other businesses, where you give the customer the benefit of saying you can buy a case of cold drinks, but you can mix and match. In other words, I can have 3 Coke, 3 Fanta Grape, 3 Fantas, and 3 Sprites for that matter. And it knows that it's part of a set of 12 items, and it will then give the set price rather than 12 individual bottles as well. Bear in mind that these barcodes of these products that I just spoke of now has different barcodes, so it's not the same as a shrink. There's a difference. So those are the options in that menu. You can see you can also log off here. Log off can also be done on the keyboard. The keyboard buttons on the right hand side you can activate by pressing Shift, Alt and Ctrl together on your keyboard. In other words, you basically need two hands to do that, and you can see you can toggle it on and off on the system. The second menu is on Alt F12. You might say, but why is it not just a menu at the top of the screen? Well, we're trying to get the point of sale, and has always the drive been on the point of sale to say no mouse is allowed. There's not enough space. And also, if you have to ask a cashier to sometimes use the mouse and sometimes use the scanner and sometimes use the keyboard, it will just become very complicated and difficult to use. So the easiest is in the 4POS scan program. Everything is keyboard driven, so it's a lot simpler. Okay, account sale, account payments can be done with keyboard presses. Account sale to GRV is if you're using 4POS Enterprise and you want to be able to transfer between different stores. You want to do a sale to another branch of yours. Quotes on the system is there. You can go and do a quote. You start off the sale with a quote. Let me give you a quick rundown of that. Quote is, let's just say, call this, again, my favorite name, Joe Soap. Maybe I should just learn to spell, right? Alright, so Joe Soap, and I've got an address for him, telephone number for him, mobile number for him. Alright, and I can go and proceed, and as you can see at the bottom here of the screen, it shows you clearly that you're now busy with a quote. This is not a sale. Alright, and I'm going to quote him for the 100 Pipers whiskey, a case of that, and we'll also maybe do Castle cans and 24 of those. That would be for a customer that might have to present it to somebody, a corporate company, etc., etc., and says that's a quote that they've done. You finalize the quote by pressing your F10 button by default. In my case now, the tender, as you can see, is K again, twice. So you press it once and you press it a second time. I'll prompt you then, do you wish to complete the quote? You say yes. Alright, and the quote is now sitting on the system. You can now carry on with a normal sale as you wish, and I can go and ring up something else, finalize it to cash, and go and type in my amount in there and ring it up as cash. Okay, then if, let's assume now for the moment, the customer returns with that quote and he says, yes, I would like to accept that quote of yours, I can press my Alt F12 again, go and retrieve my quote, and as you can see, my quote is sitting over there, and I can either go and view it on the screen or print it out accordingly and make sure that that's correct. So if I want to accept it, I'll click on it and press enter. Alright, and that's your quote. That is the prices that you quoted the person at the time. And now I can turn it into a sale by simply doing a tender button again, type in my amount of money and saying cash or card or check. Okay, again, they might be a corporate company, you might have an agreement with them, and you might even want to finalize it to an account sale. That will all be within your abilities. Okay, so let's just jump back to the Alt F12 menu and just go through that. Consignment sales is when you sell something to a customer on a Friday. They say they're having a party, they take a case of this and a case of that and whatever, and you want to be able to retrieve it on Monday because they're returning some of the items they didn't sell. System is intelligent enough to know that you've issued a case but they've returned 6, so they will charge the customer for a dozen plus 6. Okay, they won't get the benefit of the 24 price because they've now returned some items. Retrieve consignment, same concept. So you sell on the Friday with consignment sale, you retrieve on Monday with a retrieve consignment. Suppress transactions for 24-hour stores that would like to do a cash up at 6 o'clock in the morning, but they're only doing the day ends later. In other words, it will hold back all sales from 6 o'clock until the lady has done the day ends or the person has done the day ends and so on. Payouts on the system, quite simple and easy. You want to say I'm buying bread and milk for the staff, for argument's sake, and I've given them, or they've spent 17 Rand 50. I don't think you can get bread and milk for 17.50 anymore, but the concept is the same. Do you wish to commit? Thank you very much. On the payouts also we have payout reasons that you can do in the back office, and you can get a nice group total of your payouts then as well. Back to my alternate menu, Alt F12. I can just pop the drawer from there. Again, if I've got password permissions for that, I can do an X reading at any time and just say what is my turnover so far, The system, you might want to do it for money purposes. In other words, to see how much money you've got in the drawer, see whether you can use some of that money for your supplier payouts, or alternatively, you can, in the back office, there's an option that allows you, you'll see at the bottom of the screen, it is a little blue block that's come up now that says D required. D required is when you've set up this amount of money that the system has warned you are for when you've got too much cash in the drawer. What you would then do is literally go and do a payout, and you'll specify, argument's sake, I'm doing a drop to my safe, and I'm taking out, argument's sake, 3,000 Rand. Okay, and you'll simply do that as a payout, and the payout will then be recorded on the system, and your monies and stuff will be balancing properly. Okay, so let's go and do an X reading quickly. Then it will show you exactly what is going on in your business. You've taken 2,315 Rand. You've had 3,000 Rands of payouts already. So you had a total. You've got a credit there of 702 Rand. The float is not taken in consideration here. So that was obviously part of your float. That's why you were able to take so much money out of the drawer. And you can print it out for yourself as well. And actually click on verify to verify that it's the same totals that has already been updated to the back office. Excuse me. Okay, so in terms of the menu, print previous transactions is for transactions now more than the last 10. So Ctrl-P or reprint is just for the last 10 characters. Print previous, quite nice function. Somebody buys something from you, loses their receipt, and they want to come back to you and say, I would like to reprint an invoice from whenever. Now, in my case, it's nice and small. It's only 25 lines. In your case, you might have thousands there. So you can go and specify. So you can specify, I want to get it for this month, last month, by customer name, by serial number, by transaction number, etc., etc. Lots of different ways of getting to it. Click on it and simply click on print, and it will print it for you. Okay. Let's have a look further. The same applies to obviously printing previous payouts or cash ups. You can do a serial number inquiry if you've got serial tracking on the system. In other words, you want a customer brings back a telephone or a radio or a decoder or anything like that, or LNB for our customers that uses 4POS and electronic stores that does DSTV installations and so on. You can actually type in the serial number, and you can then sorry, I don't have any serial numbers on this database, but you can then, once you've selected the serial number, it will tell you then when it was sold to the customer, so you can see whether it's within its warranty period. Again, we all understand how some customers try to abuse the system. They will buy one today, and tomorrow they'll bring the very old one back and want to credit or return for it. There's also lay-bys on the system. Lay-bys will make a separate video altogether. So you can do a lay-by sale, retrieve the lay-by, and then also we have a job card option in the system where it can be 4POS can be linked to the 4Jobs program, which is a separate module that you can buy if you want to use job carding for people that do a lot of repair work, either in-house or out of the business. Okay. Cash ups and so on. Let's just go through that quickly. So at the end of the day, once your sales is done and your queue is 0, quite important, the queue must be 0, and the queue is typically not 0 because somebody has decided to close the domain controller. As you see, it's nice and open now, it's all working, nothing wrong, and it tells me missing cashup declarations, which is very normal, meaning that there was some sales on this machine, the computer that I'm working on, but you haven't done any cash ups yet. So I'm going to go back to my point of sale, and I'm simply going to press F12 to do a cash up. The system will now pop up a cash up declaration screen for me. In other words, in here I would be able to go and type in the amount of coins that I have for 1 cent. So maybe I've got 5 of there, I've got 23 there, I've got 6 2 rands, and I've got I don't know, 23 there again. Make it 24 just for sake of argument again. Okay, and I've got 5 10 rands, 6 20 rands, 750s, 8 100s, just as an example, and 9 of that. Okay, so I've got a huge amount of cash here. As you can see on the screen there, it shows me that the float is 0. You can jump to the payouts and go and enter your payouts that you've done. I think the one payout that we've done was 1750 and the other one was 3000 if I remember correctly. So you might not remember correctly. You could also type in the checks and so on. You could also press the F2 and F3 buttons depending on what you've configured your keyboard or up to jump to those different sections. Okay, so if I want to go to cash sales, for instance, you can just press F4 and it will jump to checks, as you can see at the top. Alright, you can change the floats, and again, depends on if you've got the password. As you can see, I started off with 0 float according to the system. If you want to change the float permanently, you will do that in the back office, store setup security, set up point of sale to set up set up the float properly. Alright, so for now I'm just changing the float for today and say I started off with 1,000 Rand. Okay, and once you're done and you're happy with your balancing screen, you can press F12 again and the system will then show you what your figures are. Now obviously I've been playing around and jipping my own system here. So my cash declared is 2,200 Rand. If you look back in the background there, 3,200 Rand that you've said that you've got on your float, in your till, 1,000 Rand for the float, so that's a 2,000 net cash that you've received for the day. And that's where the system brings that up. Calculate, the system says no, you should only have 480 Rand. So where did you get the other 1,700 Rand for, or from? Well, you got it from possibly putting money into the till without ringing up the sale. That's the one problem. The other problem might be that you rung up checks instead of cash. Okay, no point in bothering about doing what some systems call media swaps. We don't do media swaps at all because it creates a nightmare in terms of balancing. And so yes, you must just take in consideration, yes, that 500 Rand should have actually been cash. So that's 500 Rand of my 1,700 Rand explained. By the way, the flashing that you see on the screen there, I've set up learning mode on my system, so when the learning mode is on, the point of sale will be updated by the domain controller all the time. Because you might be sitting in a network, there might be 5 other computers and they're all creating new products. So that's what that flashing is all about. And then the same applies to the cards. As you can see, I declared 0, but I've actually had 230 Rand worth of cards sales on the system. And then I had 3,017 Rand 15 on. I'm quite happy. My declaration was actually correct. So yes, an outage, I've got the red block here. Outage, there's still 1,000 Rand unaccounted for. You can now escape again and go back and go and recheck your figures. So you might find that, okay, no, I made a boo-boo on entering the amount. Or if it is correct, but you have no explanation for it right now, and of course you don't want to waste time, you can press F12. That figures will appear on your day-end reports for eternity. Okay, so yes, it will be there. No, you can't fix it tomorrow. You either fix it now or it will stay on record there. So the auditors and the bookkeepers and everybody else is going to come back and say, but where's this money? Okay, where did it go? And as you can see on the message there, it says, are you sure you want to do this? Yes, thank you, I'm done. It's completed and it will now print for me. And then finally, because I have given myself or the person logging in here the option to say they will tell me what the float is, it brings up a little screen that allows you to enter the new float. So I'm going to take, argument's sake, in my business, I'm taking the 800s, the 200s and the 100 Rands out of the till. So I'm going to, and I'm not going to bother about the other small change. I'm going to leave a new float for the next day of 656 Rand 65 cents, and I'm going to post that. That will be my float for the next day. All right. Just to prove the point quickly, I'm logging in again. And if I press F12 immediately now, you'll see that my float from the previous day that I've left on the system will still be there. Okay. I think we're done with the basics on the system. It's obviously a lot of playing around with, getting confident with it, and so forth. If you are a new user, you've just installed it, you've played around with it now, and you say, okay, well, how do I clean it? or clear the information, there's a video on 4POS Initialize that will allow you to clear all the sales transactions, reset everything back to 0 again, so that you can work on the system easily. Last two things. First of all, to log out of the point of sale is Alt L by default, and the system will prompt you wish to log out, and it will leave it there. So it's always a good idea when you walk away from a system to always log out. You might make it another button, which is easier for the cashiers to remember than Alt L. The second button that is quite critical is to close the point of sale. A lot of people don't pick up that to close it is Alt X by default. Now, on some Windows systems, specifically Windows 8, if you press Alt X, it jumps up to this little Windows menu that they thought that we want to use. I don't actually know who does use it, but in any case, so if you press Alt X, it jumps there, and that creates a nightmare for most customers. Again, that will be something that you will change in your keyboard layouts. So for now, just to get out of there, I'll press Alt X, and the system says, do you wish to exit? Yes. So again, let me just show you then quickly where the keyboard buttons are that you'll change and what the rules are. So first of all, always just go and check setup point of sale server, and you'll see my computer is set up for 101 default over here. So that's the keyboard that I want to be able to fix. And then I want to go to my store setup keyboard layouts, my 101 default, and in here I can go and change the button. So if I want to change exit application to something else for that Windows 8 machine, I can make it Shift X, argument's sake. Okay, press on the keyboard, let me press Shift and X. There's a whole video on keyboards which will help you. Okay, I enjoy